I was reborn on the day my sister and I were choosing our husbands. That was when I realized I could hear other people's thoughts. I heard my sister's voice in my head. This time, I have to grab the best husband before she does. Then she anxiously pulled away the gentle husband I had married in my past life, leaving me with the abusive man who had beaten her. I laughed. Did she really think the man I had married before was a good person? Once again, I found myself on the day of the husband selection. Sitting across from us at the dinner table were two men of similar age. One was Logan Carter, the eldest son of the Carter family, cold and distant by nature. The other was Ethan Carter, the youngest son, though technically illegitimate. He was mild-mannered and gentle. This time, I have to grab the best husband first. My sister's voice echoed in my ears. I glanced at her, but she hadn't spoken. She was simply staring straight at Ethan. "Just wait, I'm gonna take you away this time." Her voice came again. That was when I realized not only had I been reborn, but I could hear people's thoughts. And judging from what my sister had just said, she had been reborn too. Otherwise, there was no way she would be thinking like this. Sure enough, the next second, she walked over and sat beside Ethan, looking at him shyly. "Hi, my name is Sophia Evans. I like you," she said coyly. At that moment, my father suddenly spoke. "Susan, since your sister has already chosen Ethan Carter, then you will marry Logan Carter." As soon as he said that, my sister's eyes filled with satisfaction. In her mind, she sneered, "This time, you can take the beatings for me." In my past life, Sophia had married Logan. Logan was a successful businessman, always busy with work, and was known for being emotionally distant. My sister had tried countless times to get close to him, but each time she was beaten and thrown out of his room. Eventually, because she never bore a child, Mrs. Carter declared her infertile and kicked her out of the family. Meanwhile, I had married Ethan. Even though he held little power in the Carter family, he still provided me with food and comfort. He took me shopping, out for meals, and pampered me endlessly. Everyone in the Carter household knew how much he doted on me. Later, when Logan suddenly died of poisoning, Ethan inherited the Carter family's business, and my status in the household soared overnight. My sister, consumed with jealousy, deliberately drove her car into me while I was out shopping, killing us both. "All right, Dad," I replied with a smile. "I actually like Logan too." Then I calmly walked over and sat beside Logan Carter. I had to admit, this man had an incredibly strong presence. The moment I sat down, I felt a chilling aura wrap around me, making me hesitant to speak. No wonder my sister had suffered so terribly in the past life. I tried to listen to his thoughts, but I heard nothing. However, when Ethan turned to look at Sophia with a smile, I suddenly heard his voice in my head. "What a beautiful little doll." A shiver ran down my spine. On instinct, I grabbed Logan's hand. Despite his cold personality, his hands were surprisingly warm. Feeling my touch, he turned to glance at me. I quickly let go, and only then did he remain silent. Even though Logan seemed intimidating, I still felt that staying with him was far better than being with Ethan, that venomous snake. This time, I was determined to change my tragic fate. I would make my own money, become independent, and rely on no one. Our wedding was held together. In my past life, we had also married on the same day. Back then, Logan hadn't even shown up to the ceremony, while Ethan had arrived early in the morning, making everyone say he was the more considerate husband. And just as expected, history repeated itself. Ethan, dressed in a white suit, hurried over and carried Sophia away. As they passed by me, she cast me a smug look. "Susan, where's Logan? Didn't he come to pick you up?" She sneered. I simply smiled. "No need for you to worry, Sophia. Just take care of yourself." Her face darkened at my words, clearly choked up. "Go ahead and laugh now. Let's see if you'll still be laughing when you're the one getting beaten." After saying that in his mind, Ethan Carter took Sophia downstairs with him. But it was still too early to say who would have the last laugh. Just like in my past life, Logan Carter did not attend the wedding, leaving both my sister and me to endure endless gossip and judgmental stares. Sophia was even more delighted, unable to contain her excitement as she clung to Ethan and blurted out, "I love you, Ethan." Then he kissed her. After the kiss, she turned to stare at me, her lips still wet with saliva. I knew she was waiting to see me humiliated. But I wasn't stupid. Unlike my past self, who had stormed out in anger, handing everyone and the Carter family the perfect scandal to gossip about. I wouldn't make the same mistake. I remembered how, in my last life, everyone had criticized Sophia for being immature and unfit to be the Carter family's eldest daughter-in-law. As a result, after the wedding, Mrs. Carter never showed her any kindness, making her life in the Carter household miserable. With a poised smile, I picked up the microphone and addressed the guests below the stage. Logan had an important business deal to negotiate today, so I'll be making the rounds in his place for the wedding toast. I hope you all won't mind. The moment I said that, the murmuring among the guests ceased. Even Mrs. Carter, seated at the main table, gave me a look of newfound appreciation. The Carter family was a prestigious household, highly concerned with maintaining its reputation. In moments like these, a daughter-in-law needed to show grace and composure. Sophia also noticed Mrs. Carter's reaction, and her eyes flashed with irritation. Disgusting, she sneered in her thoughts. Just wait. When it's time for the tea ceremony, I'll make sure you embarrass yourself. Honestly, I found this ability to hear others' thoughts incredibly useful. It was like having a cheat code for life. Everything became so much easier. When the tea ceremony began, I calmly lifted my gown and walked toward Mrs. Carter. Sophia kept her eyes locked on me, mentally counting down, 1, 2, 3. At the very last second, I sidestepped just in time to avoid whatever she had planned. Instead, she lost her balance and fell hard to the floor, spilling tea all over herself. "Oh no, are you all right?" Ethan hurriedly reached out to help her up, but in his mind, I heard him scoff. "What an idiot." The entire room turned to look in our direction. Mrs. Carter's face darkened with displeasure. "So reckless. Do you even look like a proper daughter-in-law?" "I'm sorry, Mother. It wasn't on purpose," Sophia stammered, trying to cover up her embarrassment, but the unwillingness in her eyes was obvious. If I were her, I would have just accepted the loss and focused on living quietly. But she wasn't willing to let me have peace, so I certainly wouldn't go easy on her. With Sophia making a fool of herself, the wedding ended in an awkward rush. From start to finish, Mrs. Carter never once gave her a kind look. But when she turned to me, there was nothing but approval in her gaze. She even took my hand and said warmly, "Susan, tonight, I'll make sure Logan comes home to keep you company. He should make it up to you." And sure enough, that night, Logan actually came back. The moment he walked through the door, he loosened his tie, his face filled with exhaustion. I quickly stepped forward to take his jacket. "Logan, you must be tired today," I said gently. He merely glanced at me and said nothing. In my past life, the servants had gossiped about how, on our wedding night, Logan never came home. My sister had waited alone in the bridal chamber, becoming the laughingstock of the entire household. When she went to Mrs. Carter to complain, she was scolded instead, told that she lacked the ability to win over a man's heart. While Logan was in the shower, I prepared his bed, made some tea, and tidied up the couch for myself to sleep on. When he came out and saw the scene, a flicker of surprise flashed through his eyes. I quickly explained, "You sleep on the bed. I'll take the couch." He narrowed his eyes slightly, studying me. "Susan, are you trying to play hard to get?" Draped in only a bathrobe, his chest was slightly exposed, beads of water still clinging to his skin. I had to admit, his physique was incredible. I quickly averted my gaze. "We have no real feelings for each other. Sharing a bed would be awkward for both of us. If possible, I'd like to propose a partnership." Logan raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "After all, our marriage is just a business arrangement. Plenty of couples in our situation live separate lives and only put on a show for appearances. I married you simply to ensure a stable and comfortable life. I don't expect love." Hearing my words, he suddenly smirked. "You're smart. That works for me too. I can agree to that. I was just an ordinary person. I didn't have the skills or confidence to control a man's heart." In the Carter family, Logan's attitude toward me would largely depend on how Mrs. Carter viewed me. I had no desire to end up like Sophia in our past life, targeted and isolated by everyone. That would bring me no benefits. Besides, in my past life, Logan had been physically abusive toward Sophia. I had no intention of provoking him and ending up in the same situation. Peaceful coexistence was the best option. This time, my only goal was to make money, start my own business, and rise to success on my own terms. To maintain appearances, I had Logan post a picture of us holding hands on social media, captioned Happy Newlyweds. This way, everyone would believe our marriage was fine. As I scrolled through his profile, I noticed how empty it was. Aside from this new post, there was nothing else. Someone like him must have a dull life. That night, Logan really did take the bed while I slept on the couch. He had no concept of chivalry whatsoever, but I should be grateful. At least he didn't force me into anything. The next morning, I was woken up by the sound of Logan working out. He was doing push-ups while listening to music. I had heard that emotionally cold men were usually frail, but his 8-pack abs and toned calf muscles were proof of his incredible strength, far superior to Ethan's physique. "Stop staring. I'm not interested in you," Logan suddenly said, getting up from the floor. He put on his shirt and added, "Get ready. Let's go eat breakfast." I knew what he was really saying. He wanted people to see us together, to make it look like we were in love. Honestly, he seemed reasonable. I still couldn't understand why he had abused Sophia in our past life. After getting dressed, I left the house with Logan. The moment we stepped outside, I saw Sophia and Ethan walking toward us, holding hands. Sophia wore a strapless dress, her collarbone and shoulders covered in hickeys, which she deliberately showed off as she leaned closer. Her face radiated pride as she scanned me from head to toe. "She's completely covered up. She must have been beaten last night and is trying to hide the bruises." Her inner voice echoed in my mind, followed by a smug smile. "Susan, how was your wedding night?" she asked, her voice laced with mockery. Today I was wearing an elegant long-sleeved kyongsam. Sophia must have forgotten that Mrs. Carter despised revealing outfits and excessive makeup. But I wasn't about to remind her. I simply smiled. "Sophia, based on seniority in the Carter family, you should be addressing me as sister-in-law, not sister." Her face darkened. She clenched her teeth, unwilling to accept it. "Even Logan never calls you that. What right do you have to demand it from me?" Then, she turned to Logan. "Logan, say something." I could feel the air around Logan growing colder. In his mind, Ethan cursed, "Damn idiot. Just wait until tonight, I'll teach you a lesson." He tugged on Sophia's hand, silently signaling her to stop talking, but she was completely oblivious to the danger she had just put herself in. "Tell me, Ethan," Logan said calmly, "what is the first rule of the Carter family?" Ethan instantly lowered his head. "I'm sorry, Logan. I'll handle it right away." The next second, smack, Ethan slapped Sophia hard across the face. "Show proper respect. Greet your brother and sister-in-law properly," he ordered. Sophia's face turned red from the slap. She was absolutely livid, but she knew Logan wasn't someone she could defy. Begrudgingly, she muttered through gritted teeth, "Good morning, brother. Good morning, sister-in-law." As soon as she said it, Ethan dragged her away. I remembered that the first rule of the Carter family was that no one was allowed to disrespect the heir or his wife. Addressing them improperly resulted in 30 lashes. And Logan was the rightful heir of the Carter family. I remembered that in my past life, in order to survive, I had memorized all the Carter family rules. Back then, after Sophia married Logan, she constantly bullied me. But because I knew this rule, I never dared to show her disrespect. I had assumed Sophia also knew the family rules, but clearly she hadn't remembered them. That was why she thought she could still bully me in this life. By the time we arrived at the dining hall, Sophia had already received her punishment. Her face was pale, and she kept her head down, not daring to sit for the moment. Under the table, I caught a glimpse of Ethan pricking her hand with a needle repeatedly. "You worthless woman. It's all your fault that I had to endure this humiliation," he cursed in his mind, pressing harder each time. In my past life, it wasn't long after I married him that he started abusing me. He never allowed me to speak about it, and I had no way to escape. I suffered immensely because of him. That was why, in this life, I would rather be with Logan than ever end up with Ethan again. "Sophia, this time you chose your own husband. Don't blame me." Mrs. Carter arrived, and we all stood up to greet her. She leaned on her cane and was about to let us take our seats when her gaze froze on Sophia. Sophia hadn't changed out of her dress. She was still wearing that strapless gown. Sensing Mrs. Carter's disapproval, she immediately forced a smile, pretending to be embarrassed. "Mom, it was all Ethan's doing. He said he liked how I looked when carrying his child." The moment those words left her mouth, Mrs. Carter's face darkened with fury. She raised her cane and struck Sophia on the back. Shameless. What you do as a couple is your own business, but you are not to speak of such things in public. And don't ever dress so indecently again, you're humiliating the family. In my past life, even a maid had been dismissed just for wearing shorts. That was why I had always been careful. I only managed to survive in the Carter household because I lived cautiously. But Sophia always assumed that my good life was because I had married the right man. She completely misunderstood. Why did she think a good life had to depend on someone else? I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know, Sophia whimpered. Sweat beaded on her forehead from the pain. Ethan quickly chimed in, pretending to take responsibility. Mom, it's my fault, I forgot to remind her. Although he sounded remorseful, I could hear his inner thoughts. Serves you right. Watching you get beaten is the best entertainment. Disgusting. What a psychopath. Since she was a newlywed daughter-in-law, Mrs. Carter didn't reprimand her any further. She took her seat and instructed us all to eat. Logan remained silent the entire time, but while we ate, he casually placed some food onto my plate. I could feel Sophia's seething gaze on me, as if she wanted to tear me apart. Smiling even more brightly, I said, "Thank you, honey." Mrs. Carter looked pleased as she turned to me. "Susan, after lunch, you should go to the company with Logan and start learning. As the eldest daughter-in-law of the Carter family, you need to understand the business." I had expected this. In my past life, she had said the same thing to Sophia at the dining table. But Sophia had responded, "I don't want to learn. I can just rely on Logan for the rest of my life." She had willingly pushed away a golden opportunity. So when she was eventually kicked out of the Carter family, she had nothing left. "Of course, Mom," I replied obediently. Logan took me to the company. The entire ride, I tried to listen to his thoughts, but heard nothing. Well, that made sense. A man like him wouldn't be swayed by emotions. He had nothing to worry about. When we arrived, Logan brought me to his office. "Wait here," he said flatly before walking out. Through the glass door, I saw him heading toward the conference room in a hurry. Curious, I followed. Inside, he was negotiating with a British businessman about selling a formula he had developed. Fortunately, before coming here, I had already done my research. This deal was a critical one for the Carter family. I heard the British man's thoughts loud and clear. "This formula is only worth a few hundred yuan. This time, I'll make sure to rip the Carter family off." I looked at him in surprise. His expression was calm and composed, giving nothing away. No one would suspect the scheming going on in his mind. He confidently quoted a price of 3 million. Logan hesitated, not responding immediately. Sensing an opportunity, the man pressed further. "Mr. Carter, I assure you, this product will bring you far more value than 3 million. Just as Logan was about to agree, I pushed the door open and walked in. "Hello," I greeted in English. Then, I picked up the bottle of skincare serum he had developed and examined it closely. "I'm a woman. I understand skincare products better than most. Your formula only contains whitening ingredients. It doesn't have any anti-aging or wrinkle-reducing properties. And as an engineer, you should know that surface-level whitening effects are negligible at best. So tell me, why exactly is this formula worth 3 million? The British man was stunned. Logan leaned back, watching me with interest, not interrupting. I took that as a silent invitation to continue. "However," I added, "since this is a foreign product and you've done quite a bit of promotion on social media, many people are already familiar with and trust your brand. So I'll offer you this amount." I raised a single finger. 1 million, I said. The man looked shocked. "Jack, 1 million is already quite generous. Think it over," Logan said, his gaze sharp. No, I interrupted. "I'll give you 10,000. For a formula that's barely worth a few hundred, 10,000 is already my final offer." The room fell silent. The British man stood up abruptly, clearly angry. In broken Chinese, he demanded, "Miss, who are you to name such a price? How am I supposed to do business like this? Fine, I won't sell it. It's not like you must have it." With that, he turned to leave. "Jack," Logan's voice was calm yet commanding. "I'll give you 1 million. Sign the contract now, and I expect you to apologize to my wife." Jack froze mid-step. His eyes lit up with excitement as he immediately turned around. I was completely baffled by Logan's decision and tried to stop him, but he shook his head slightly, signaling me to stay quiet. I had no choice but to hold back. "Mr. Carter, you're a real businessman," Jack said with a pleased smile. Then he turned to me. "I apologize, Mrs. Carter. I didn't realize you were Mr. Carter's wife." After that, Logan took Jack to sign the contract. When it was all over, I still couldn't understand. "That formula was only worth a few $100. Why did you pay him $1 million?" I asked. Logan took a sip of coffee and spoke in an unhurried tone. "You have a good business instinct, but you don't fully understand the market yet. Jack's formula itself is worthless. I knew that from the start. What I wanted was the brand he built. Although it's not well known yet, he's already established a strong reputation among young women. With just a little more promotion, I can easily make back that $1 million. Suddenly, it all clicked. So that's why Jack had been so confident. He knew his brand had value. Coming here was definitely the right choice. I was learning things I never would have in my past life. But I was still curious. "How did you know the formula was only worth a few $100?" Logan fixed his sharp gaze on me. I forced an awkward smile. "I guessed." He didn't question me further, but I took this opportunity to make a request. "I want to run one of your branch companies." In my past life, Ethan had no status in the Carter family and couldn't give me anything. I had always wanted to start my own business, to be my own boss. That way, I wouldn't have to rely on anyone. Once I made enough money, I could leave. Logan studied me for a moment before smirking. "You're pretty ambitious. You're not planning to take the company, make a fortune, and then disappear, are you?" His piercing gaze made me feel exposed, as if he could see right through me. Damn it. How was he better at reading people than I was? For the first time, I felt inferior. I had a literal superpower, yet he still outmatched me. This must be what true talent looked like. "Of course not," I said with a smile. "I just want to find something to do," I said. Logan took a sip of his coffee and nodded. "Fine, but you need to learn from me first before I let you take charge." For the next few days I followed Logan to the company and learned a lot, not just about business but also about how to navigate relationships and social situations. Surprisingly, one day he took the initiative to invite me out for dinner. And not just anywhere, it was the most luxurious Western restaurant in town. I didn't expect to run into Sophia and Ethan there. Sophia had been cutting his steak for him, but the moment she saw Logan and me walk in, she immediately put down her knife and fork, looking startled. "Susan, you're here too?" She quickly realized her mistake and corrected herself. "I mean, brother, sister-in-law, you're here for dinner as well?" The next second, I heard her inner thoughts. What the hell? Of all times, why did I have to run into her now? I can't lose face. "Yes," I said with a smile. "Logan and I came to have dinner together." As I spoke, I took the initiative to loop my arm through Logan's. He didn't resist. Ethan quickly stepped forward and greeted us. Brother, sister-in-law. Logan didn't acknowledge them. Instead, he pulled me toward a table and sat us down. I caught the furious look in Sophia's eyes as she watched us. She was probably wondering why Logan hadn't hit me yet. Why had he even taken me out to dinner? When I went to the restroom, Sophia was waiting for me outside. Her expression was murderous, just like the look she had when she drove into me in my past life. "You must be getting beaten up behind closed doors," she sneered. "Stop pretending. Just looking at you makes me sick." Hearing her words, I chuckled softly. Then, my eyes landed on the needle marks on her arm. "Oh my, Sophia," I said with mock concern. "What happened to your arm? So many needle marks." Her eyes flashed with panic as she quickly covered her arm, glaring at me. "None of your business. It's just something fun between Ethan and me." Then she smirked, leaning in. "Not that you'd understand. Logan probably hasn't even touched you, has he? Unlike Ethan, he wants me all night long. I'm exhausted." She was clearly miserable but still trying to act superior. I was curious how long she could keep up this facade. "That's wonderful," I said with a bright smile. "I wish you both a lifetime of happiness." I turned to leave, but she suddenly grabbed a fistful of my hair and yanked hard. Are you mocking me?" she snarled. I frowned. She was just as insane as she had been in my past life. I struggled to break free, but before I could, Logan appeared out of nowhere. Without hesitation, he kicked her away. "Disrespecting your sister-in-law," he said coldly, towering over her. "Do you know what the punishment for that is?" I remembered, the punishment was being locked in the underground cell. I had been sent there once before because of Sophia. That place was filled with countless rats, cockroaches, and snakes. She knew exactly what fate awaited her. Her face turned deathly pale. "Brother, I didn't mean to. Please don't do this." But Logan was never one to be soft-hearted. Once he made a decision, he never changed his mind. He ordered Ethan to take her away. I heard Ethan curse in his thoughts. "Hope she dies in there. Less trouble for me." Logan took me back to our bedroom and checked my head. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, brushing his hand away. "She just pulled my hair a little." I straightened my clothes and fixed my hair before glancing at him. "But why did you suddenly come to the restroom?" His dark eyes met mine. "You were gone for a while. I was about to ask why you got into an argument with her again." I hesitated. I couldn't exactly tell him that Sophia had been reborn and was deliberately targeting me. So I simply said, "She told me that she and Ethan are intimate every night and that they're very happy, unlike you, who won't even touch me. That's why we argued." Hearing my words, Logan's eyes darkened slightly. "So, are you hinting at something?" I immediately realized he had misunderstood me. Waving my hands in a panic, I quickly clarified. No, that's not what I meant. I was just explaining why we argued." Logan stared at me intensely. "Susan, have you ever thought about doing that with me?" "Of course not," I blurted out without hesitation. "I told you I only want to rely on you for a stable life. That's all." "That's all?" he pressed. I nodded firmly. He said nothing else. Instead, he suddenly slammed the door behind him and left. I had no idea which part of my words had upset him, nor did I care. I only wanted to focus on my own plans. The next day, Logan didn't take me to the company. Instead, he sent me to the branch office to manage it on my own. I threw myself into running the company, determined to make $10 million before stepping away. Every day, I chased down projects, negotiated deals, and brought in significant profits. Mrs. Carter even allowed me to take my share of earnings directly. Just as I was reveling in my financial success, Sophia was finally released from the underground cell. That day, I had just finished work and returned home when I saw her. She had lost a lot of weight, but she was still carefully dressed, her makeup flawless, her clothes elegant. She clung to Ethan as they walked toward me step by step. "Sister-in-law," she said sweetly, "I've already asked Mom for permission to learn the company business from you. I want to help ease your workload." But in her mind I heard, "Very soon, I'll make sure you and Logan die together." A sudden realization hit me. Logan's death in my past life had been sudden and unexplained. So it was Ethan. He was the one who had caused it. And now, not only did he want to kill Logan, but he wanted to kill me too. I controlled my emotions and smiled at Sophia. "Great, you can start tomorrow." I deliberately agreed because I wanted to know exactly what they were planning. Sure enough, the next moment, I heard her inner thoughts. "What an idiot. Just wait. I'll kill you both soon and live freely." So she had spent days in the underground cell, but was still clear-headed. Too bad she didn't know I could hear her thoughts. There was no way she could kill me. Logan had died from poisoning in my past life. Now, I recalled the time I had seen a cabinet full of colorful vials in Ethan's basement. Back then, he frequently used them to experiment on me. Sometimes they made me pass out. Other times, they sent my body into overdrive. Thinking about it now, those were probably his poison samples. I brought Sophia to the company and made her start as an intern. She had learned to hide her emotions now, agreeing to everything I said without hesitation. I knew exactly why. She was meticulously plotting a murder. Ethan wanted Logan and me dead. But Sophia, she wanted Ethan dead too. That was something I could use to my advantage. It didn't take long before I set my plan in motion. Behind Logan's back, I went to find Ethan. I knew him well. He liked obedient women. That was how I had survived by his side for so long in my past life. So this time, I deliberately dressed provocatively and looked at him with feigned admiration. "Ethan, I like you." His interest was immediately piqued. "Sister-in-law, aren't you afraid my brother will kill you?" I bit my lip, pretending to be shy. "I've always wanted to be with you." Then I lowered my voice and added, "And I have something important to tell you." He leaned in, intrigued. "Sophia wants to poison you," I whispered. "Yesterday at the company, I overheard her talking to a man about it." Ethan's face darkened instantly. fury burning in his eyes. Are you serious? Of course, I nodded. She said you always hit her, so she's going to kill you. She wants to rise to power on her own. Because of my past life memories, I knew exactly how to manipulate him. Hearing my words, Ethan believed me completely. His deepest, darkest secrets, his violent nature, his cruelty were known only to Sophia and himself. No one else could possibly know. That bee, he spat. I'll make her pay. Then he turned to me with a sly grin. Sister-in-law, just wait. Once I get rid of both Logan and her, you'll be my wife. After saying that, Ethan left. Ha, does he really think I'm that stupid? There was no way I would follow him. Without wasting any time, I went straight to Logan. His life didn't directly affect me, but in this life, he had helped me. He had given me opportunities to earn money and had even taken the time to share business strategies with me. When I entered his office and told him everything, he looked surprised. Do you have any proof that Ethan wants to kill me? I pulled out a voice recorder and played back our conversation. The first part was me deliberately seducing Ethan to gain his trust. Even I cringed at how flirtatious I sounded, so I quickly explained I was just pretending to gain his trust. Logan didn't respond, but his face darkened slightly. Sensing the change in his mood, I wisely shut my mouth. The next second, he suddenly pulled me into his arms. The scent of pinewood surrounded me, and I could hear his heart beating steadily against my ear. I froze, completely caught off guard. He looked down at me, his gaze intense. Susan, I advise you never to have thoughts of betraying me. As long as you are my wife, you should remain loyal to me. This idiot. How did he twist the situation into this? Forget about that for now, I said, shifting the conversation. The important thing is that your brother is planning to kill you. What do you want to do about it? Logan's expression remained indifferent. Let's see if he actually has the ability to kill me. If he fails, then he's the one who dies. It was as if he didn't take Ethan's scheme seriously at all. That night, instead of staying cautious, he even brought me to a banquet, saying it would help with the branch company's development and allow me to meet potential clients. As soon as we stepped inside, I could feel the weight of countless stares. Most of them weren't friendly. Men are all the same. If I had known, I wouldn't have brought her along. I suddenly heard Logan's inner voice and turned to look at him in shock. His face was completely expressionless. Did he just think that? What does he mean by that? Sensing my gaze, he looked down at me. What's wrong? I quickly shook my head. Nothing. But then, I heard another thought from him. She's so clueless. I was stunned. The cold and arrogant CEO in my memory was thinking this. I forced myself to stay calm and kept my emotions in check. After the banquet, Logan took me home. Sophia and Ethan were waiting for us in the living room. Sophia smiled warmly and invited us to dinner. Ethan, on the other hand, couldn't stop staring at my chest. Then, with an easygoing grin, he said, Brother, sister-in-law, Sophia and I bought some really nice ingredients today. Come eat with us. Damn it, could he be any more obvious? I genuinely couldn't understand. How had Logan fallen for such a pathetic trap in my past life? The dining table was filled with delicious dishes, but I didn't dare take a single bite. Under the table, I reached for Logan's hand and squeezed it as a warning. But the next second, before I could react, he had already picked up his chopsticks and taken a bite. It tastes good, he said casually. Let's all eat together. Sophia and Ethan exchanged a quick glance, their eyes flashing with delight. My panic surged. I dug my nails into Logan's hand, trying to get him to stop, but he didn't even flinch. I literally told him they were trying to kill him. Why is he still eating? As soon as that thought crossed my mind, Logan and Sophia both collapsed onto the table. Mrs. Carter stormed in at that moment, her face livid. Guards, take these two filthy traitors to the underground cell. They are never to leave again. I'd barely had time to process what was happening before Logan turned his head toward me, his lips curving into a faint smirk. Susan, I'm not as foolish as you think, he said. I already informed my mother to install security cameras throughout the house. The moment Ethan spiked the drinks, we switched them out. Instead of poison, they're the ones who drank sedatives. Then, his voice lowered slightly. But you seemed really scared for me just now. You're not falling for me, are you? For some reason, my heart started racing at his words. I'm not, I said quickly. I was just afraid that if you died, I'd have no one to rely on. He let out a brilliant smile. Is that so? With Sophia and Ethan locked away in the underground cell, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The two people I feared most were now out of the picture. I had also made enough money. Now, the only thing left was to bring up divorce with Logan. But I had been waiting for an opportunity, and Logan had been incredibly busy, barely coming home. I could only wait for the right time. That day, I heard from the servants that Ethan and Sophia had been repeatedly asking to see me. I decided to visit Sophia first. Her hair was a mess and she looked exhausted, but her eyes still burned with unwillingness. How did you know I was trying to kill you? How did you find out? The next second, her eyes widened in realization. I see. You came back too, didn't you? I smiled and looked at her. Sophia, you're only realizing that now? Her face twisted in fury as she lunged at the bars, gripping them tightly, as if she wanted to rip me apart. You little bee. You've been hiding so well. You knew Ethan was a psychopath all along, didn't you? You just stood by and watched me jump into the abyss. Susan, you're so cruel. I met her gaze, staring at a face that bore some resemblance to mine. She was my sister by blood, yet in my past life she had personally killed me. If I hadn't been able to hear thoughts in this life, I would have died all over again. You chose Ethan yourself. You also chose Logan. No matter who you pick, you're never satisfied. So you blame me. But have you ever thought that the real problem is you? I said coldly, you want to rely on men. I just want to rely on myself. That's the difference between us. But why do things always go smoothly for you, no matter who you're with? She screamed in frustration. You think my life is easy? I scoffed. I've been fighting for my survival every step of the way. I earned everything I have. But you've never put in any effort. You expect others to save you. That's why you deserve this outcome. With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me, Sophia screamed in rage. Just you wait. Next time, I won't lose to you. Next, I went to see Ethan. He was neatly folding a blanket. Some habits never changed. His obsessive-compulsive tendencies were still there. When he saw me, he actually chuckled. Susan, you're clever, he said. You're a great actress. You know, I actually believed you wanted to be with me. I was fully prepared to kill Sophia and Logan for you. But you gave me quite the surprise. You deserved it, I snapped, glaring at him. His face overlapped with the twisted image of him from my past life, the man who had tortured me. My anger burned even hotter. He took slow, deliberate steps toward me, his gaze sweeping over me from head to toe. If I wasn't locked up here, he murmured, I'd pin you down and inject you with something that would make you feel pure bliss. I couldn't listen anymore. Ethan, you're gonna rot in hell, I spat before turning and running out. Even after I left the underground cell, my breath was still unsteady. I couldn't shake the image of his deranged expression. But at least in this life, I had finally escaped him. That night, Logan came home drunk. The moment he stepped into the bedroom, he stumbled forward, crashing into me. We both fell to the floor. You're drunk, I muttered, trying to push him off. I'll go make you some sobering tea. But he didn't move. Instead, he started unbuttoning his shirt, his piercing eyes locking onto mine with intense possessiveness. I froze. In that instant, I realized he wasn't drunk at all. Logan, think carefully about what you're doing, I said, my voice firm. We're just partners. You are not allowed to touch me. He suddenly covered my mouth and whispered in my ear. No matter what, you are my wife, and I will touch you. I shoved him away. No, I want a divorce. You can't touch me. The room fell into complete silence. Logan's face darkened. He slowly released me, his expression unwritable. I knew it, he muttered. I knew you were planning to leave me. There was something about the way he said it. He sounded defeated. Susan, you're a heartless woman, he said. Have you already forgotten me? I frowned. What do you mean? His deep black eyes locked onto mine. Do you remember? Chase? His words pulled me back into childhood memories. I was still in elementary school back then. There was a boy with long hair who always wore a mask. The other kids constantly mocked him, calling him weak and girly. But I stood up for him, shielding him from their taunts and leading him to the back of the school. You can't be this timid, I told him. You have to learn to protect yourself. He slowly lifted his head and took off his mask. Thank you, he said softly. I just want to grow out my hair so I can donate it to my aunt. She has cancer. That was the first time I saw his face, and I was stunned. He was incredibly handsome. At that moment, I fell for him at first sight. From that day on, I stayed by his side, protecting him every day. He told me his name was Chase. Later, his aunt passed away and he moved away. I've been looking for you all these years, Logan continued, his voice low. Until the day I discovered I could hear your thoughts, I didn't realize. You were the person I had been searching for all along. Because I can only hear your thoughts. He let out a small, bitter chuckle. I never revealed myself because I was waiting for you to come to me first. I wanted to see if you still remembered me. His voice grew even softer. Then one day, I heard your thoughts. You said that once you saved up 10 million, you would leave me. His eyes turned red. That's why I've been avoiding you these past few days. I didn't want to face the fact that you were planning to leave me. I was utterly shocked. I had never expected something so coincidental to exist in this world. Logan could also hear people's thoughts. And in that moment, I realized he had been testing me all along. So that's why you knew I could hear your thoughts? He murmured. You purposely thought those things to confirm it, didn't you? I lowered my gaze. I'm sorry? I never meant to use you. I was just afraid of being abandoned again. That's why I thought I should save up enough money and leave on my own terms. Do you still want to leave me now? He asked. I shook my head. Before, I had wanted to leave because I thought he didn't love me. I believed staying by his side would never bring me happiness, so I was better off relying on myself. But now I knew he was Chase. He had been waiting for me all this time, so I would stay. Suddenly, I understood why in my past life he had rejected Sophia so strongly. He had known that she wasn't me. That's why he never touched her. As that thought settled in, I felt the warmth of his lips press gently against my cheek. Stay with me forever, Susan, he whispered. My eyes welled up with tears. Yes, I choked out. Forever. Thank God I was given this second chance at life. Thank God I didn't miss the person I was meant to love.